Have you ever had a thought about a time where you needed to forgive someone who had done something cruel to you, or you thought that they were thoughtless or downright mean? And that stinks, right? That totally stinks. Like the thought of having to go there and really think about forgiveness and do the forgiveness. But have you ever considered the time where you had to really forgive yourself, where you had to really look at the possibility that the forgiveness is for you, that the forgiveness that you need to do is really forgiving yourself for the things you did, the things you said, the things you've held on to? Forgiveness is a tricky, tricky thing. It's a big word that means so many different things to so many different people.
It is. It's kind of a trigger word when you, especially when you bring it up to someone who's in a lot of pain. You will get such a reaction from them. It's like you got to tread very lightly when you start bringing up that topic of forgiveness. But even more so for that person that you're having the conversation with, I feel like it's even bigger deal for us, for ourselves. No one is harder on me than me. The
Yeah,
negative self-talk that I do to myself on a regular basis, I'm almost like abusive. Like it's crazy because we hold ourselves to such a high standard and we want to be the best version of ourselves. We beat ourselves up when we don't show up in that manner.
yeah.
The thought of to forgive myself is so huge because why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I owe that to me? Just like I would want someone else to forgive themselves for something they feel they did to their loved ones.
100%. 100%. So we might be resisting it. We're resisting the thought of forgiveness because we're unaware of what forgiveness really is or what the problem really is, right? So you need to take a deep dive and really understand forgiveness and understand what it really means before you can go into the action. I think a lot of people think forgiveness means that if I forgive you, then I'm excusing the behavior. Then
Right.
you can get away with what you did for free. And if I forgive you, you're not going to get punished for the thing that you did. What
Correct.
happens when that, if I forgive you, that means I have to forget. You know that. What's that line?
I'll forgive, but I won't forget.
I
Yes.
forget, but I won't forget. I don't have space in the bandwidth to hold on to stuff like that.
Once you really start learning and practicing forgiveness, yeah, you don't want to hold on to the negativity. It's like, it feels icky. You
Right.
want to keep that pure heart of leaning in and embracing forgiveness. The thing that where it really, I think part of it breaking down, we have so many people that come to us and not for their own self, for their relationship with others. And the first thing they do is bring up the guilt, the G word.
Yeah.
I feel guilty. I
Yeah.
feel guilty. So once we define what guilt really is, the intent to deceive or do harm. Did
Yes.
you intend or to deceive or do harm to the person that you love? And they say no. Well, it's the same way you got to look at it for yourself. When I was holding myself responsible for not picking up that phone call from Donovan the night before he died, feeling as though I could have given him as his mother and the relationship that we had with each other. We were each other's person. I was the person that could talk him off the ledge. I was the person that I'm going to use one of our mom's words that could give him food for thought. She always used to say, I'm going to give you a little food for thought to make him reflect and not act hot-headed when he got in the fight with the girlfriend and got on the motorcycle. I could have given him that little nugget and I did not pick up the phone because I was doing something else and didn't want to be rude. I held myself responsible. Did I intend to deceive or harm Donovan? Absolutely not. I love that child unconditionally. I would have asked God to take me before he harmed a hair on his head, right? Looking at it from that perspective and also the nature of our relationship, the fact that he did call me for everything because we had such a close relationship. I needed to forgive myself for that. I needed to say our relationship was so much more than that. Our relationship was bigger than that one missed phone call. And he already had all the food for thought. He already had all the nuggets. He already knew not to do what he did, but he did it anyway. So therefore, me holding on to that was punishing who? Just
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
When I came to that point, and it wasn't immediate, everybody knows I fought tooth and nail against it. I was dragging my feet. I wanted to be punished. I wanted to stay in the pit of despair because I felt like that's where I belonged to be because I was his mother. I should have saved him, right?
Yeah.
I had to forgive myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes the good part, the understanding of that you don't come to that very
Right.
fast, easy. It's not something that you come to right away. Um, we meet a lot of clients and we know right away the one thing they're struggling with is the forgiveness of themselves.
Mhm.
Really looking at being able to allow uh that in and really be able to forgive themselves for whatever that thing is. Let's take a look at forgiveness, okay? We talk a lot about thoughts. Thought we do a lot of thought work and we talk a lot about thoughts. Forgiveness is not a thought and it's not a feeling. It's an action.
Mhm.
You don't have a thought. Now, the thought is, let me give you the thought for forgiveness. The thought is, I can't forgive him. I can't forgive her. I can't forgive myself. That's a thought. But the action step of absolutely doing it, doing the forgiveness is an action step. Forgiveness is selfless. It's a selfless action that you take, you, the griever, take for your heart. It's selfless to forgive. Forgiving is for you, right? It's not for them. And forgiving yourself is for you. It's not for anybody else. We forgive so we can move beyond the pain of that thing that is holding us back. We are hurting no one by holding on to it. We're
Right.
only hurting ourselves. We are hurting no one, and no one is getting punished. Because let me tell you, if he had an affair and he is out living his life and he's dating all the women in the world and you're holding on to that bitterness, you are only punishing yourself. He ain't getting punished.
Yeah, that was that thing, and I love it. It's like the resentment is poison
Yeah.
you're drinking, hoping that they'll die, but we're the ones poisoning ourselves. And that's what the bitterness is. It's that bitterness, that resentment. You could feel it. You feel it in your spirit.
When you don't give forgiveness, you're giving up hopes and dreams and expectations for a better tomorrow. You are choosing to stay in the pain and the brokenness when you don't choose forgiveness. And trust me, friends, I'm throwing out a bunch of lines here, but part of recovering is also looking at if there's any forgiveness to be done. Part of doing the healing is also looking at the forgiveness. And I think that also throws people for a loop. When you don't forgive yourself, you keep the past alive in the forefront. I was talking to someone the other day and they kept saying to me, yeah, but that's in my rearview mirror. Like, it's okay. I understand that happened, but I'm not bringing it into the forefront. I'm not taking it with me. That's in the past. Forgiveness is keeping the past alive,
Yeah.
keeping it in your everyday life.
Yeah.
Not forgiving is unrealized demand that the past did not happen. It's like, okay, I'm going to pretend like it didn't happen.
Right. Right. And you'll get stuck in that. You get
Yeah.
stuck because while you're pretending, your body knows it happened. Your brain in the secret compartment that's back there still knows it happened. So all of your actions moving forward, you're still acknowledging without acknowledging that it happened.
Yeah.
So, there's no perfect circumstance, event, relationship, situation. There's nothing that's perfect in this world.
Yeah.
And hindsight is always 2020.
Yeah.
It's easy to sit when you're doing the reflection of the relationship and pinpoint all the things you could have done differently or better or more of. Always. That's guaranteed. When you and I come to our final day, Sharon, we'll still find things, even though we do this work and we know what we know, we'll still find area and things where we could have tweaked a little bit.
Yeah.
That's always, but we need to be able to just acknowledge I am an imperfect person.
Yeah.
My intentions were, I always had the best of intentions. They were pure. It just didn't get delivered in that way. And I sometimes we can say to the people that our clients, I can say, give yourself some grace, and they will receive that better than if I say you have to forgive yourself, because
Yeah.
they will go ballistic for the F word.
Yeah.
But when I say,
Nobody likes the F word.
I don't. I love a good F word. I do. I love a good F word. But when we present it as though, how about you give yourself a little grace? They definitely will receive that. Like, you're right. I should give myself a little grace, but don't you say that F word.
Yeah. When we're not willing to forgive ourselves for something that went wrong, something we said, something we did, something we wish we had done better. Sometimes the thing is just, we can't forgive ourselves for the thing we wish we had done better. We put a box around our brokenness and we jump into that box and we stay in that box and we can't find the door to get out of that box because we're stuck in the box of unforgiving.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a lonely place to be, in the unforgiving box.
Whereas even when you have a situation where your other people around you, no one is holding you responsible except for you. No one is looking at like going, shame, shame. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that in our minds, that's how it's playing out. It's like we're on this walk of shame and we need to have that thing whipping ourselves because how dare us? We're the only ones doing it.
The forgiveness, especially if it's directed at you, if you got to forgive yourself for something, is 100% about you most of the times. It's not about the other person or the other thing. It is 100% about you. And so the forgiveness is going to free you, not them, right? It's not going to, it's like you're going to drink from a new cup.
Yeah. When the person that if the forgiveness for forgiving yourself comes from a situation where your loved one has passed on, and you can't have the conversation because sometimes your person you just have the conversation with your spouse or whatever and you resolve it and then they're able to verbally let you off the hook like I never thought that. It's usually a misunderstanding. But when the person is not here, you can't have that conversation. When you know the relationship, that's why, like, for me, as with the boys, I was their mom. Nobody knew those children better than me. They came out of my body. I knew when Austin was trying to pull a fast one. The other people wouldn't catch it, but I would catch it. I knew when Donovan was trying to get attention from his lady harem because I'd see a post about something. I'm like, oh God, there he goes trying to get attention. It's easy to look on that and say, they wouldn't want me to be punishing myself for this. They wouldn't want me to be feeling responsible for this. They would know that it was an accident. That wasn't my intent because you know the relationship when you have a loving relationship. When you have a less than loving relationship, it's a little bit more challenging to go there because you have a lot of negative that's in the way. I have a lot of positive that's in the way, so I'm drawing on that positivity. So when you have a less than loving relationship and you're trying to go there, then you have to look at yourself. You really have to take a long look at yourself because you know your intention. My intention was never to be evil or hateful or make them feel bad. That wasn't my intention. I was hurt and I wanted them to see that I was hurt and acknowledge and validate. That's different.
How long did it take you to come up to the conclusion that you needed to do some forgiving work in your work with Donovan?
So, honestly, recent. It was very recent where I came really to a 100% complete. Definitely through our healing work that we did, I dived into it a little bit, but embracing it fully and 100%. I just finished writing my memoir, so I'm very proud of that. Working on getting it out there to the world, hopefully very soon. But when I worked on the Donovan chapter, because it was me taking a full bird's eye view of our complete relationship from day one until the end date, and really seeing who Donovan was and the role that I had with him. So it was like, me sharing stories of our stuff that we did, just me and him. It's really just, it's my story. So just me and him. And same with Austin, that I came to that. I really came to the parts of, we've really had this amazing relationship and connection. And our journey together was awesome.
That's great. That's really great. And we're gonna have to do a whole podcast on the book when it's ready, so everybody can see the book and hear
Yeah.
all. And that is not the answer that I was expecting. So that's really interesting. So from my perspective, from the outside looking in, one of the things that you struggled with in the first year that Donovan died and kept you stuck was that forgiveness. And that when you were finished the work right there at that 1 year part, well, a lot of it was that you had hung on to the not forgiving yourself.
Of him. I hadn't forgiven him.
Yeah.
That was really where I was stuck and struggling with forgiving him for leaving me,
Yeah.
or not listening to me, because that was the thing that you and I came to. Especially I saw it play out with the other children too. As a parent, I get stuck in my rightness.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of it. But really getting to the end of it was, I think, just looking at the whole thing
Whole
and
picture.
seeing I can let myself go. I did the best that I could.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what about, how long did it take you to come to the forgiveness of having to forgive him for, like you were telling in the beginning, not picking up the phone call? How long did you think it took you to come to that end of the forgiveness?
Yeah, that part was around the year part. That's the part that I really came through first, because looking at the relationship and knowing that, like I said, I had given him the food for thought. We had countless conversations. Our relationship was close. And he knew he had all the tools he needed to make the right decision. He just unfortunately made the wrong one and got caught up in the moment, as we all do. And
Yeah.
that is something that I don't hold him responsible for anymore.
And I asked that question for a specific reason. And here's the deal. We are not so naive that you and I think that we are going to do a podcast on forgiveness and everybody's going to run out and forgive themselves. We're not, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying here is consider the thought that maybe the part that you have to do is some forgiveness of self. Maybe the part you have to do is forgive yourself for the things you didn't say. Maybe the part of the work you have to do is the really forgiving yourself for holding on to this for so long. Sometimes the forgiveness is that vague, and that's the forgiveness that needs to be done. So consider the thought is really what we're trying to say here. Think about forgiving yourself.
It's a very important thing to do because, like we said, we're the ones carrying the poison.
Yeah.
At the end of it all, we're the ones holding the poison, and you want to release yourself from that.
Here's some of the things about forgiveness that we know to be true. It's very empowering to do the forgiving work. It's empowering to get there to the idea that that's what you need to do, but two, absolutely doing the work. Forgiveness also means that you're taking charge of the happiness and of this journey. You are taking control of this journey that you're on, and you're able to allow in any of the emotions because you've done the forgiveness work. And more important, I think the most important is that forgiveness will set you free.
Yes.
It sets you free from that box. It sets you free from the pain. It sets your heart free. It sets you free and onto this healing journey.
That's the best feeling. The freedom that comes with forgiveness is amazing.
So the first step is to consider forgiveness. The second step is to examine all of the areas that you think you need to do the forgiving work. And then 3, really understand forgiveness and do the healing work so that you can be set free. That's it.
Sounds so easy. Easy peasy.
Okay. If you're struggling with forgiveness, join and follow us in our Facebook group, subscribe to this podcast, reach out to us, set up tell us you just want to talk about forgiveness, and we'll break it down even more. Forgiveness is the work that definitely can be done over time, and we would be honored to do and talk to you about forgiveness.
Absolutely. All right. Bye, friends.
Bye. Sad is not bad. It doesn't mean that you're failing or you're doing something wrong because you allow the sadness in. It is not a bad thing to grieve. It is an amazing thing to grieve. When you look at it and you come full circle and you've done your healing work, you start to look at all the areas that you were sad in, that you were broken in. It's not a bad thing to be sad. But what happens to us, the average griever, every griever, we try so hard to get away from the sadness. We fill it in with so much crap because we won't even allow sadness in for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. We don't want that. We were never told that it's okay to be sad.
Our message has been the opposite. Yes, we're not trained on how to be sad. We're supposed to always be happy. You gotta, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and put your big girl panties on, and all these things you got to do. No one ever says it's okay to be sad. No one ever says that. Like until recently. Recently, it's a message now. There's all kinds of things, but prior to, and the only way I can, while you were talking, I was just imagining you're coming to your heart with like this plate of sadness, and your heart is like panicking with the hands up in the air, like screaming like, no, I don't want to be sad, because that's how we've been trained to go about looking at sad.
That is so true. And I love that example because I actually did a little podcast on it myself. If I were to give you a tray with all the emotions on it, and I walk it around, we're at a party, and here's the tray with all the emotions. I walk up to the first person, they're going to take happy. The next person is going to take joyous. The next person is going to take fun. Like we're going to take all those are going to go off the tray first, right? Now we go and we have hurt, broken, sadness. Nobody wants that. But what if we told you that sad equals okay? Sad, we're supposed to feel sad. We're supposed to feel this emotion. And I'm using sad as the emotion because it's the easiest one to talk about. But we are supposed to feel sadness. We're supposed to feel broken. We're supposed to feel grief. We're supposed to feel unhappy. Here's the thing that we get stuck in within society. And I just thought of this now that you say that. We were with a client the other day. One of the things that you and I do when we meet with clients, the number one thing we do is we do an emotional check-in. We check in with their emotions. We mix it up. What are you feeling right now? What was your emotion yesterday? What was your primary emotion yesterday? What are we doing that for? We do an emotional check-in so that we start learning to check in with the emotions that are in our body. And those emotions aren't always happy. They aren't always joyous. As a matter of fact, when we do an emotional check-in, you and I will often go first so the griever can start understanding what we're wanting them to do and why we're wanting them to check in. I bet 9 times out of 10, Erica, you've pulled emotions from the negative side and you're absolutely okay with it. And you're not doing that on purpose. Like I think yesterday, one of your emotional check-ins, you said, I'm overwhelmed. Or maybe that was me. No, I'm overwhelmed. Like I am frustrated. I'm overwhelmed. And we kind of put a little backstory to it, why I felt this way. And once we do the emotional check-in and the person shares their emotion, that's the end of it. We don't try to correct that emotion that they're feeling. It's not our job to correct how they're feeling today. Our job is to just help them understand that you will go through hundreds of thousands of emotions through your lifetime.
And I think that and I know I felt this way in the beginning, like if you let in the sad, I'll never come out of it. I'll never feel
Yes.
happy again. I will only feel sad forever. Like you feel like it's going to be a death sentence. And I don't know where we get that from, but there's like this overwhelming fear. So you try to, it's like sad is chasing you all around the room because you're trying to run away from it. But if you let the sad in, it doesn't last forever. You will transition into another emotion. It may be, numbness, or it may be um anxiety, but at least it's still something different. You cycle through a series of emotions every single day. You don't just get stuck in the one unless you're resisting and then you're fighting it off. Then you kind of get stuck. But if you just allow them to cycle through you, you will go on to another emotion.
Are you reading my paper?
No, I'm just talking from personal experience.
Because I just wrote the word resisting down. And then
Well, it's my go-to. It's
it's like
the one
she's
I
cheating
connect
off my
with.
paper. I'm like, she's cheating off my paper. Okay. That is so true. What if I said sad equals good? Sad equals healing.
Mhm.
Would you be willing to look at the sad? What if this was a needle and I had sadness? I filled this needle up with sadness. And I say, okay, I'm going to inject you with sadness. But here's the deal of what I know about sadness. It will go through your body in a minute and a half. If you just allow it to be there, that emotion will pass through you in a minute and a half. You just have to agree to let me inject you with it. Would you do it? Would you do it if you knew you could be out of it in a minute and a half? But here's what happens, Miss Resistance. We resist allowing the emotion to be there, even for that minute and a half. So in the morning, we wake up, we feel sad, but we don't want to feel sad. So we decide we're going to resist it today. So we wake up, we shake it off. I'm not going to feel sad today. And we go to the bathroom, we get ready for the day, and then we go to work. And as we're driving in our car, the sadness comes up again. So we change the radio station and we turn the music up higher. We put it on some oldies and we start rocking out. And then we get to work and our coworker is all upset because her daughter wouldn't get out of the car at school. So she has this story. So instead of allowing my sadness in, I'm going to jump into her story. And we go throughout the day avoiding this sadness. Well, that minute and a half that would have happened if we just sat in it has now grown to 1 hour, 2 hours. It's still hanging on to us like a nightmare, like a monster following us around. It's everywhere we go. But because we're avoiding and resisting, it's hanging on. Now that sadness has gone into day 2, gone into day 3. That's how sadness continues to hang on, because we didn't want to sit there and take it for 1 minute and a half.
Mhm.
So the point that I was going to get to earlier also is we have a bad habit as a society, and we'll say this thing. How are you doing today? Well, I'm feeling depressed. And automatically the other person's response is, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh, is there anything I can do? We try to fix that I'm feeling depressed. We need to start normalizing when the person says, I'm feeling depressed. Well, good for you. You're feeling it. You're allowing it in. Good for you. We need to start turning around when people give us the negative emotions, start encouraging them. Good for you that you said in the sadness. Because one of the questions you and I ask quite often is, when was the last time you cried? You and I both know that crying is an outward sign of an inward emotion. Showing those tears and allowing those tears in. Crying is not grieving. Crying is crying. But when we ask someone, when was the last time you cried? It shows you and I whether they're allowing the emotion to be there.
Yeah, I was just thinking it's funny. I'm like, now she's reading my mind. I'm not reading her notes. She's reading my mind about the thought when you're going to work and you're trying to avoid the sad, and then the thoughts. And I'm just using my own experience. The thoughts are, I don't want to talk about it. So if I talk about it, I'm going to start crying.
Yeah.
So when you have that situation and your coworker asks, "How are you doing?" You can say, "I'm feeling depressed. Thank you for asking."
Yes.
You're acknowledging it, because then
Yeah.
that's going to help that minute and a half clock. The timer is on. It's passing through you. You're speaking your truth
Yeah.
You're getting it off of your heart. You're unburdening yourself, but then you're also setting the boundary. I can't deal with it right now, but thank you so much for asking. And now I'm going to go to my cubicle and start doing my work.
Yeah. We have to start telling the truth about our emotion. I am like, I'm going to start doing that. No, I'm going to have no friends when this is over.
It's like, because it's when you're not telling the truth, you're walking around being your fake self.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate being the fake self.
Yeah.
The hardest thing for me after Donovan died was knowing my heart was absolutely crying a million tears, going to a social function I did not want to be at, and someone say, "Hey, Erica, how are you?" I'm good. How are you doing? And I got, but inside, I am just, I mean, when I tell you, broken and sad and just, ugh. But in outside, I sure am here. Hello. Does this look normal?
Yeah. So as grievers, so you're saying that as grievers, we're the biggest liars in the world?
The biggest, fattest liars on the planet.
Yeah. 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 And we do that because we're lying to ourselves, but we're lying to them also. And that's the thing is we got to start telling our truth about the emotion. That's why the emotional check-ins.
Yeah.
And understanding what those emotions are and breaking down emotions. That's actually a really good podcast we got to do. We have it in our program, but we got to do it in a podcast. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is when we came to this earth and when we, whoever sent you here, whether it's God, Buddha, energy, universe, whatever, part of the agreement was coming here was that we were agreeing to feel all the emotions and have the full experience on this journey. Good, bad, sweet, or sour, whatever it was, we were agreeing to do that. And part of that agreeing was agreeing to sit that 1.5 minutes in that pain, to sit that 5 minutes in that pain. But the other thing that we do with resisting is we do the thing called avoiding, and we'll lean into the wine, the nail biting, the sex, the pornography, all of the things, not to feel the 1.5 minutes of sadness.
Right. Right. And it's going to come and go. It's not just 1.5 minutes throughout your day and then you're done with it. You put it up on the shelf.
Yeah.
It's going to come and go throughout the day, but we're just saying that's how long it's going to last. You can breathe through it. You can cry through it. You can, Sharon's going to start introducing some new stuff, doodling through it, which I love. And as we were raised as doodlers, anyone who knows this, I'm an avid doodler. You can doodle through it. You can do that for 1.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I just was getting this image also. I don't know why my brain works like this, but it does. When you're saying Buddha, your God, whatever, Adam and Eve before eating the apple, and they're skipping along and they're living their great life and they're just doing all the fun stuff and, kicking up their heels, hooray. And then they eat the apple and then all the emotions came in. They were like, no, try to give it back to God. No. Here, take it. God's like, no.
No.
Now you got it.
Oh, yeah. What about the array of emotions that happened there in the Garden of Eden? Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I guess that, one of in our ebook, The Definition of Grief, I put a little quote in there that it's not the grief that we don't want to feel. It's the pain of the emotions that we don't want to feel. If I told you that grief is going to be easy and I give you step-by-step instructions and I promise you it's going to be okay, and I meet with you every day and tell you what parts to do every day, you'd probably agree with it. If I brought this needle to you with sadness and say it only lasts 1.5 minutes, you would agree to that. It's not that. It's the prolonged suffering and pain that we give to ourselves, we do to ourselves, that we are literally trying to avoid.
Yeah. I think I said this week with a client, and we've said it in another podcast, our grief is our love.
Yeah.
How weird is it then that we lose someone to whatever circumstance or event, and we just say, okay, well, that was nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
How weird would that be?
Yeah.
It wouldn't even feel right. It's not part of the balance, right? Everything in our life is about balance. The yin and yang, everything. It's in all cultures.
Yeah.
part of our experience on earth.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. You just got to step into the sadness. My friend, be with whatever emotion you can for as long as you can. Name it. Figure out where it is affecting you in your body. What does it feel like? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it fast? Is it slow? Name that emotion and then say to it, hello, sadness.
Yeah.
I see you. I literally say that in my brain. Wow, I'm sad. And then I start to just sit there and just sit and try and describe it as long as I can for as much energy as I can give to it. And you can see it go right out of you.
Hmm.
Try that, my friends. That may actually absolutely help you. We teach a lot about emotions and processing emotions, and we do that in our Facebook group. We do that here on the podcast. You can set an appointment with us and meet with us, and we definitely would be energized to talk to you about emotions. But friends, here's the most important thing. You're not alone. You're
Yeah.
not alone.
Absolutely not. And that's one of the most beautiful things about the Facebook group, seeing how everyone rallies to support each other, and has we've built such a community that wants to embrace you. You are 100% not alone.
100%. Thank you, friends.